And now we're moving in the middle of May, and it's mayhem. I guess you could say things are getting pretty serious. Hi, I'm Kim, and if you're new here, I'll tell you a little bit about myself quickly. I've been married to my husband Clay for almost 20 years. We have 6 kids. We've lived on the Canadian prairies for the entirety of our marriage. I've lived here in this province my whole life, and we are planning to move to another province this summer to plant a church. We were thinking that we were going to be moving to the next province over from us in the summer of this year. So in July was our hope. Because we have kids in high school, we thought, well, we need them to finish the high school year here. And our oldest is graduating. We want to be here for graduation. And then, you know, the best laid plans would mean that we would be able to stay in our house until the end of school and then move after the school year. That quickly became not the reality that we were going to be dealing with when we accepted an offer on our house, which our house sold really quickly. We listed on a Tuesday, the listing went live, and by Saturday night, we had accepted an offer on our house. So 5 days on the market, crazy fast, which was a whirlwind in itself. And I was reeling from that whole experience and just going like, God, how am I supposed to deal with everything happening so fast? And then I realized that's what I actually had been praying for months, that we would sell our house really quickly. And obviously, God answers prayer, and he answered that prayer for us. And so we didn't have to be in show home ready mode for very long at all. It was, I think, 5 showings that we had all together. So that was a huge blessing for us, because 8 people in the house means there's a lot of stuff happening and just a lot of stuff in general. And so I'm really, really grateful that our house sold quickly. But the difficult part was that the lady who bought our house, she asked for possession in June. And the best we could come up with was June 17th, which is really not ideal when you have school going until June 26th. But thankfully, we have somewhere that we can stay close by to finish off the school year. So we thought, okay, we'll let her take our house in the middle of June, and we'll maybe move out of our house a little earlier than that, like get possession of a place in the city that we're moving to in Edmonton. And if we have to pay some interim bridge financing to the bank for having 2 properties at the same time, it shouldn't be too bad. We'll be able to handle the cost of that. It'll work out fine. So that was the plan. That we were hoping, okay, we've sold our house, we'll go buy a house and we'll get possession a week before we have to be out of this house. It'll be great. That was our plan. Then we went to Edmonton to actually go house hunting, and we had no idea what kind of house we would be buying. All we knew was our budget and a general area of the city that we wanted to be living in. Friends of ours are moving with us, and so we also wanted to be able to get houses relatively close together because their kids and our kids are very good friends, and we wanted to be close enough that the kids could walk or bike to each other's houses without us, having to drive them across the city. Because right now we live on the same street, which is really awesome, and we just wanted to be able to do life in community with them. We're moving there to plant a church with them, so this is the core team, is our 2 families to start with. And so we wanted to be able to be close to one another as we do this church planting adventure together. So those were our requirements. We had a budget that we needed to kind of stay within, and we wanted to find homes relatively close to each other. So we had, between the 2 of our families, about 20 houses to look at when we traveled together to go look at homes. And we arrived there the Monday after Easter, and our realtor said, a bunch of the houses you wanted to see are not available anymore. So I'll take you to the ones that we can see tonight, which are, they were new builds that the builder had available. And then we were going to look at some pre-owned homes the next day. So we saw a few houses on the Monday night, saw some that might work, but we thought, we'll see what else there is in some other neighborhoods. And the next day, he said that even more of the houses that we wanted to see had sold the night before. And the inventory was just slashing before our eyes. And our options were getting more and more limited as the hours went by. In addition to that, there was one house that came on the market probably 2 days before we went to look at houses. And I was so excited about this house because we've been watching what's been coming up for sale. And as I said, we have a big family. There's 8 of us. And so we didn't know. Are we going to get a house similar square footage to the house we have now? Is it possible that we could get 5 bedrooms plus a den like we have now? Or are we going to be squeezing more people into bedrooms to make this work? Would our older kids be living in an unfinished basement and, until we have money to finish the basement? I didn't know. So then this house came on the market and it was just perfect. Like the layout, there was so much room on the main floor. It had, it was a 2-story. I don't know why I keep saying, You don't know. That's why I'm telling you. Okay, so it was a 2-story and it had a lot of living space on the main floor. The kitchen was huge. And I was just so excited about it. The basement was finished. There would have been room for everyone to have their own space. And so I'm like, wow, okay, maybe this is God's plan for us. Is this the answer to my prayers? Like, are we actually gonna get this big house to be able to host people in and have room for our kids? And the price was the price was right, which was crazy because the amount of bedrooms that we were hoping to get, just those kinds of houses don't come into our price range. Houses are more expensive there than they are here. And so to get into a home with the same amount of living space that we have now, it was looking like that's not gonna happen. And then this house popped up. So I'm like, is this a yes from the Lord or is this a distraction? I don't know. And I had a dream about it the night before we left. In my dream, the realtor was like, oh, hang on. They're accepting offers for this house at 5 p.m. And so I woke up, I'm like, we've got to get there now. We have to hurry and go look at this house. Like, it was such a stretch for my faith to go, okay, here's this house. Do I trust Jesus to have a better plan than I do? Like, if this is his plan, fantastic. And if it's not, like, do I trust him enough to provide whatever it is he wants to provide for us? And all that to say, by the time we got there on Monday, that house had an offer pending on it. And we thought, well, maybe we should just go look at it anyway and give a backup offer just in case that offer falls through. But then by Tuesday morning, it was becoming very apparent that we did not have time to wait for that offer to fall through. Like, we had to pull the trigger on a house and we had to do it yesterday, really, because houses were selling so fast. And in the area we were looking in and in the price range we were looking in, if we did not make a decision and make it now, there was not going to be any inventory left for us to choose from. And so, as the Lord would have it, we were able to buy 2 houses next door to each other. And so now we'll be living next door to our friends, which is so cool. And the houses are very similar to one another. They are 3-bedroom, 2 stories. So with that, we're moving from a 5-bedroom plus an office house with 2,400 square feet of living space into an 1,800 square foot 2-story house with 3 bedrooms plus a den. So my husband Clay gets to keep his office, which is a big blessing because he does work from home primarily, and so he needs a workspace at home. And he has a lot of video gear and equipment that we have to store, so that goes in his office a lot. So, but our bedrooms, we're losing 2 bedrooms. And the basement of this house has only 1 window, so we can only finish 1 bedroom in that basement when we have enough money to finish the basement. And we had initially thought, okay, our older boys will live in the unfinished basement. It'll be fine. It'll be kind of roughing it, but they'll be okay. And the more that we thought about the particulars of how we use our house. You know, you have to consider, what do we use the space in our house for? It's a place to sleep. It's a place to host people. It's a place to work. It's a place to play. It's a place to work out. And where do we do all of those things? And how do we coexist in the same space, doing different things at different times? And we just didn't, I mean, we could tell that our older boys, who are 16 and 18, we could kind of get a read on them that they weren't really too huge on being in the basement. I mean, there's perks to it, having some space, but when you really got down to like, okay, the closest bathroom with a shower is now 2 floors away from us on the 2nd floor. And if I get up in the early morning to go have a shower, like that just becomes awkward. And then Clay and I always get up early to work out. And so if we're on the treadmill or we're doing a workout, we would be doing that in the basement, which would then be interfering with their space where they might be sleeping or working, because my oldest son is a writer and he gets up early and works on his writing before the rest of the house is really up and doing stuff. So it would be a big distraction for him if we're in his space on the treadmill or he's hearing a workout video while he's trying to write. And so all of these things start conflicting, and Clay just said, here's a crazy idea, but what if you guys sleep 3 kids to a room and your bedroom is just your sleep space, and then other areas of the house become workspace. So we turn the basement mostly into the workout and computer, like office work zone for the kids. And Marcus can work on his writing in Clay's office, close the door. He can have some quiet space and time in there because Clay's not needing his office that early in the day. This is all, I mean, we've been having so many things swirling through our brains trying to figure this all out. But the kids, surprisingly, were actually on board with doing that, with having 3 kids in each bedroom to sleep in. So that's the plan for now. We are 8 people in a 3-bedroom house. So that will be interesting. So now that brings me to, I talked about our initial plan was we'll move in summer. And then the secondary plan was, okay, we will move earlier in June, but it'll be okay because we can stay in Saskatoon while the kids finish school. We'll move our stuff there. We'll pay to have 2 houses at once. It'll be fine. And then once we finally we made an offer on this house that was accepted, and then we finally get talking to the bank about mortgages and interim financing for having 2 houses at the same time. The amount of money we were going to have to pay for holding 2 mortgages simultaneously was way more than either of us could have expected that it was going to be. So we had this dilemma of, and also our house, it's a new build and it's basically finished. And so the builder wants us to take possession as soon as possible because they don't want to be holding on to inventory that's completed. They want that off their plate, they want their money, and they want to get on with their lives. And so they were not willing to let us wait until early June to take possession of the house. They wanted us to take it in May. So we could not afford to take that in May and then leave this house in June. It was just financially prohibitive. And so now we have a new plan, and the plan is that we are moving in the middle of May. The woman who's buying our house is thrilled at the opportunity to be able to get possession of our house a month earlier than we had initially agreed to. So we're moving out of here in the middle of May. We will be loading up our stuff into a U-Haul and taking it to Edmonton and then coming back to Saskatoon so that we can stay at a family member's house and our kids can finish the school year here and we can have graduation and all of that. And then the other majorly complicating factor in all of this is our oldest son is incredibly talented and gifted with music. And so he's working on his Royal Conservatory Level 9. He has an exam coming up 2nd week of June. And he has the provincial music festival that he's being recommended to compete in, and that is the first weekend of June. So he needs a piano to practice on. And the family's house that we're staying in doesn't have a piano. So we were initially going to hire a mover to take all of our stuff to Edmonton because we have a piano and we wanted it moved safely. But now our new plan is the piano that we own, we're moving it into the house in Saskatoon that we're staying in so that while we're staying there, our son can keep practicing piano. And we've put in a deposit on a new piano in Edmonton. So once we're there, we'll get that delivered to our new house. And when we're done with this piano, we will try to sell it here. So we don't have to move a piano except from this house to the next house. This would have been way less complicated if we didn't have a piano, but we do. And so this is the reality that we're dealing with. So our best laid plan was that we would be moving in July and all these things would fall together so nicely. And now we're moving in the middle of May and it's mayhem because we're living in a house that's not our house. It's like an 800 square foot bungalow and we're gonna cram into that. So it's kind of nice that we're moving there first because we're going from all this space that we're used to into a tiny house comparatively. So it'll be kind of like staying at a tiny Airbnb and we'll get used to making do with the bare minimum of stuff. And then when we get to Edmonton, to our new house, that'll be more space than where we had been staying previously. So maybe it'll feel like, whoo, we've got this giant house. I don't know. But this is definitely adventure, definitely not how I thought things would line up. But it's so encouraging because we know that God is providing for us every step of the way. He just keeps opening doors and allowing things to slide into place. And we are grateful for the house that we got, even though it is not at all what I hoped that we would be buying. It is a beautiful house, and I know it's going to be great, and I'm really thankful for it. And I'm thankful that we're going to be living next door to our friends. You can hear another perspective of this whole buying a house scenario from my friend Chantel, because she has a YouTube channel too, and she talked about it as well. So I will leave a link to that below. We are thankful that the lady who's buying our house is eager to get into this house and was willing to move her possession date up an entire month, because if she hadn't been, I don't know what we would have done. We have had wonderful realtors to help us with all of this stuff, and it's just been mind-boggling how God provides for us, and I know that He does. And I knew that if that house that I wanted wasn't God's plan for us, that it would be okay. So I have total peace about the house that we're moving to, even though it's not what I wanted. I know it's what God wants. I know it's what Jesus wants for me. Hold that thought, because my kids are being crazy and they just came out of their room. Okay, nap time is over, or rest time as it's come to be known, because nobody naps anymore, but we have a quiet time. So I've been talking longer than I thought because I thought I'd be done talking by now, but I digress. That is the whirlwind that we have been dealing with over the last month of selling our house, buying a new house, trying to get all these closing dates and possession dates figured out. So please pray for us. This is really overwhelming and stressful, and it makes sense why I've had headaches more often and just more pain and inflammation in my body, because it's a lot to deal with. And I am just taking one day at a time and trusting that God has always been faithful to us, and I know that He always will be. And I see His hand in everything that is happening, and I know it's all going to work out. As far as videos go here, I'm going to try to keep posting on a weekly basis, because YouTube doesn't like it when you're not consistent. And if I take a week off here and there, like I did last week, it doesn't go well for me moving forward. So I'm gonna try to keep releasing a video on a weekly basis if I can. Obviously, that might not happen because life is crazy, life is hectic, but I'll do my best. I'm curious what kind of videos you would like to see over the next month to 2 months to 3 months, as far as moving and packing and all of that goes. I mean, if you say whatever you post is great, but if you have, I mean, that's sort of helpful, but it's also really helpful if you're like, I want to see you packing up your kitchen or whatever the case may be. That's really helpful. If I know even one person cares about watching something like that, then it helps me to plan what I'm doing when I'm in the midst of all of this packing and moving chaos. Yeah, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for praying for us. And I will keep you posted on what's happening as it happens. See you next time. Bye.